First of all, thank you for having me here, and it's a great honor to share this stage with other keynote speakers. So thank you, Damia, for inviting me. My name is Amanda Vollenweider. I'm head of the education and presentations of the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. I'm responsible for all the educational programs, exhibitions, publications, and all the public programs that we develop in the Van Gogh Museum. But it should be not about me, but about Van Gogh. Oh, can you hear me loud and clearly? I hope. Because maybe it's not very in our mind, but Van Gogh, when he started to paint, he was a young guy. He was this young generation where we are talking about today. He was 25 when he started painting, and he died at 37 years old. And he was very open about his mental issues and about struggling how he can be this best artist that he wishes. So I think there's a really nice connection about what we talk about today and this person, Vincent van Gogh. So we attempt to see him as an old artist, an old white guy, but actually he was a young generation of his society. So I have to. Yeah. So I just want to start with a new museum definition that was approved on the end of August this year at the International Conference of ICOM. And it's nice because it's also in Spanish. I will come back to this new museum definition later on, but I hope you have already seen it and that you will embrace it, because I think it's connecting us as museum professionals. And it has really some nice words in it that are useful to make a connection to this new generation, to these young adults. So take a deep look at the words, and I will explain about it later on, why I think it's so important. So the Van Gogh Museum also has a North Star. So what do we want to be in the future? And it's nice to see that there are some similarities on the new museum definition. And I just highlighted a few words. So we want to be there for the future generation. And we want them to be able to enjoy and learn from our story in a way that fits their own time. And I think it's really good to notice it, because there we have a task. We have to change our method. And the last thing I highlighted was we want to be a place that encourages dialogue and embrace various points of view. So we also want their points of view to be in our museum. And these are only words, but it really has a lot to do about how do we have to work and what is the change we have to do to be able to get to our North Star. Okay, so we want to create a personal connection with Van Gogh ideas, life, and art. I do have to give you some data, but I hope it will be short enough to to give you an insight. So what you see here is the percentage of our visitors. So these are the countries we have visited us. And you see here, I don't know if I can point it out. Oh, no, sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So here you see that we only have 13% of Dutch visitors. So we have actually not a great amount of visitors that come from our own country. And if you, oh no, I'm just going to do this one first. And if you see the age group we have, divided in Dutch visitors and international visitors, it is really, I think, mind-blowing that the visitors we're talking about today, so the visitors aged between 25 and 34, we have 5% of our Dutch visitors that are that age, and 18% of that age from our international visitors. So I think it's quite unusual and that we have work to do. And especially if you think of the figures of the population of Amsterdam, our greatest group is between 25 45. So the population of Amsterdam, we have this huge group of the target group we are talking today. So what does this data tell us? There's a huge gap. There's a gap between the North Star and our visitors. There's a gap between the population of Amsterdam and our Dutch visitors of the museum. And there's there's a great gap between the international visitor and the Dutch visitors in this age group. So that was actually the starting point of our research project about how we can be relevant and stay relevant for this young group adults with a bicultural background, because I forgot to say that, but Amsterdam has in Amsterdam 180 nationalities are living in Amsterdam. So if you look at the data, the young group of 24-35, they are mostly bicultural, and we just saw a gap. We didn't reach this group of young adults with bicultural background. So we wanted to research what does it mean for the organization? What do we have to change to connect with this target group? And we were able to have a research project where we first really researched and measured what the population, the target group wanted, and then implemented it in our structural programs. We did that with the target group, as Rachel already mentioned. So it was really a cooperation with the target group. We had an integral approach, and what we found very, very important was that we should measure it. So we really measured the impact of all the programs. It's a nice measurement actually, but I will skip that. So the goal was an inclusive Van Gogh museum with young adults. So the questions to measure the impact of Van Gogh Connects, that's the name of the project, was what source do we need to make programs successfully? So we connected with partners, and we wanted to know if the content that we were developing were represented for this target group. And we wanted to know what form would be successful for this target group. So we did some co-creation project, we did some participative projects, and we did different art forms in our programs, as spoken word, painting, writing, dance, fashion. So we also want to know which kind of art forms are successful to combine with the story of Vincent van Gogh. So where do we have more impact? Inside of or outside of the museum, or within the educational structure? That was also a question we really thought we needed answer. We needed to have answer on that. What we did is we made a matrix, and we did a lot of programs, just pilot programs, to know what works, what doesn't work, and it was really iterative. So we really could, like an agile way, we could just do one pilot project, then improve it, and etc., etc. So it was really iterative way of researching it. And this is an example of how to categorize our programs. So we had some programs within the educational structure. We had some programs outside of the educational structure. And we had programs in the museum, and we had programs out of the museum. And for example, the in-house program within the educational structure. We had a program, and I think you know the CFGM educational level. It is used in Spain. It's like the practical high school structure. It gave us a structure for us to use in our pilots. One of the programs we did was we collaborated with student groups that were connected outside of the educational structure, and that wanted to have like a nice program to connect with each other. So we joined the Islamic Student Association, and they do all kinds of things outside of the college schools. We made a special program for them. And it was actually more about their selves and their identity, and less about the art work of Van Gogh. And what was really nice is that they felt a connection with Van Gogh. And not especially about the art of Van Gogh, but about his story. Because his story, and he was really open on that, is about struggling with life, how to cope with mental issues, how to cope with failure. How can you stand in a society where you're not recognized as an artist or as a person? So it was really nice to see that there was such a good connection about the story of Vincent van Gogh and their life. This program still is on, and is very successful. So that's really nice. And we have a bit of the same group that Tate has, and we call them the reframers. So we have a group that represented, of course, the target group, and they give us all kinds of advice. And they are really and we co-create actually all the programs we develop for this target group. And you see, it's like a really nice, diverse group of people, and we couldn't actually do without them. We really need them. They also get paid. We see them as equal colleagues, and they give us advice, sometimes if we ask them, but also on their own. So they also are very critical about the way we do things. And I think that's really good. And we trained actually our colleagues also to listen to them. So it wasn't. It's an advice if they have an advice for us. It's something we really want to keep in mind and want to do to improve, to do something about it. And these reframers, they also co-create programs. They do guide tours. So they're also into our guide tour employees group. And they give a new perspective on the highlights of Van Gogh. They use the story of Van Gogh and his mental health struggle more than our traditional guides. And that is what the target group really loves. And there's more space for knowledge sharing as well in these tour guides. So this group encourage the attendees to share their experience about their life. So it's actually more a dialogue instead of only tell the art history point of view of Van Gogh. And it really works very well. They have their own exhibition in our house, in our museum. This one was called Erratic Growth. So it was about the struggle in life. And they had really a nice, dialogue, communication between what did Vincent was thinking when he painted this painting, and what does it reflect their feelings or their life. So it was a really personal exhibition. This was our first exhibition, and for us it was really successful to have this personal touch. And we are continuing giving them exhibition space every year. We had last year we had the second exhibition, and it was called Why So Serious? It was more of a lighter subject, and they highlighted actually the bright the bright side of the life of Vincent van Gogh. So it was really nice. This is a movie, I hope it will start. And this is an outreach program. So this was outside of the museum. And there we created a workshop within the universities, and it was during their break time. So they didn't know we were there. We just set up a whole workshop environment, and the students just could come in and paint, and there was explanation about Van Gogh and his life, and it was just really a nice break for them between their lectures and college. And they experienced it as not only a nice surprise, but also a way to reflect also on their daily life. And so they really they felt a connection with Van Gogh again. So the first thing is in Dutch, but it will there are also English quotes.
Ze zijn hier allemaal een zelfportret aan het maken. En het gaat best wel goed.
Toen ik begon was ik een beetje, hoe gaat dit goed gaan? En na een hele goede begeleiding is het uiteindelijk echt iets geworden.
We had a short break, so we thought, why not trying something new to distract ourselves to prepare for the next workshop?
Yeah, it's quite relaxing actually.
I think it's an incredible initiative, and usually I don't paint any paintings every day, but today, like, this opportunity made me kind of relax.
So these were a few examples of the pilots we did, and some were really successful, some were just had to have a little of improvement, but the results in general was that the Van Gogh Museum became more relevant after attending one of their special programs. They felt more welcome, so that was really nice. They had another image of the museum before attending the workshop, and their image improved after the workshop, so that was really a nice result. But there are always some learnings, of course, and what we really know after these pilots is what not to do or how to grow. And was really clear that a normal visit to the museum has no impact for this target group. So we really have to develop special programs. The programs that I explained before. The target group really didn't feel represented in the museum and didn't feel part of the museum without a special program for them. So they need special treat, and I think they are they should demand that. They should feel represented, and they don't want an average white teacher in front of them. So that was really something. It's obvious, of course, but they really have to feel represented, and that means we should do something about our employees, but also about our partners, etc., etc. So it has actually a lot of influence. So focus on the 4 P's, not only the program or the public, you also have to focus on the partners and personal. So that was our learning, definitely. And what to remain or start to do, bicultural young adults have a preference for active cultural participation. So they really want to be involved. They don't want to hear a story. They want to be part of the story. That was really a learning, and we want to continue that. They want to have space to also share their knowledge, actually. So that is what we remain. doing. The life of Van Gogh is more interesting than only his art. The life of Van Gogh, they really felt a connection with his struggle, his mental issues, and that he's really open about it. So the focus on our programs will be more on the life of Van Gogh instead of the art of Van Gogh. Active working methods are appreciated and contemporary art forms as well. So we did a lot of pilots with spoken word, contemporary artists who are a translator for the art of Van Gogh. And that was very appreciated. Well, they want space for their own feelings and story. So we embedded that in the programs, and participate on programs is highly appreciated, and projects are more successful when there's this participation part in your program. So what we do now is we had 4 years to do research with 2 years of pandemic, so actually we had 2 years. We want to go from project to structural integrational way of programming. So it should be actually a main program and not only a pilot project. And we want sustainable programs and partnerships. We really need these partnerships. So we have had some partners working with us together, but it was incidentally, and we really need now to get it sustainable. More focus on integral approach, and that what I mean for that is that we need all P's to make it successful. So public, partners, personal, and program should be in your mission and in your approach when you want to connect with young adults. And I want to end again with the ICOM museum definition because I think it's such a nice definition where all these aspects that I was talking about are actually in this definition. So you can use it and try to use it in your daily work. So accessible and inclusive is of course now in the definition. Foster diversity with the participation of communities. You can't do without participation nowadays. And I think it's really nice that it's now knowledge sharing and not only knowledge, it's really sharing knowledge. So sharing your experience with each other. So the target group or the visitors, they need some space to also give their voice a stage. Thank you very much.